best friend's mother, so like his second mother.
She wears it for me, I was asking well, somebody had issues with the knee.
What's
I
that?
didn't get the whole
Yeah.
You guys all are okay?
To the living, I am gone. To the sorrowful, I will never return. To the angry, I was cheated, but to the happy, I am at peace. And to the faithful, I have never left. I cannot be seen, but I can be heard. So you stand upon a shore gazing at a beautiful sea, and you remember me. As you look in awe at a mighty forest and its grand majesty, remember me. As you look upon a flower and admire its simplicity, remember me. Remember me in your heart, your thoughts, your memories of the times that we shared and loved. The times we cried, the times we fought, the times we laughed. For if you always think of me, I will never be gone. Death has taken our beloved Dolores. Our friends grieve in their darkened world. In their silence, there is lamentation. In their tears, there is loneliness. Lost in their sorrow, may they find the presence of loving friends. Hear them, O God, and be with them. For Dolores' love that united us in life and which death can never sever. For her companionship that we shared along life's path and which continues through the tenderness of memory. For the gifts of her heart and mind that brought us so much joy and happiness and are now a precious remembrance. For all these and more, we give thanks to our God. Kohelet wrote, "The eye never has its fill of seeing. Young or old, those who depart this life never see enough of the world. They never complete their task, never cherish their loved ones enough before they are called home. How they yearn for yet another respite from the final summons, and how we yearn to have them close to us for yet another challenge in our lives, yet another joy, yet another precious moment together. God, be now with those whose hearts are broken. Be near to them when light seems distant. Sustain them, O God, until the time of healing." Adonai mia gorbo halecha, mia shkon bahar kodshecha, God, who may abide in your house, who may dwell in your holy mountain, those who are upright, those who do justly, those who speak the truth within their hearts, who do not slander or wrong them or bring shame upon them, who scorn the lawless but honor those who revere God. who give their word and, come what may, do not retract, who do not exploit others, who do not take bribes. Those who live in this way can never be shaken. We are taught from our prayer book that there are stars above, stars up above, so far away that we only see their light, long, long after the star itself is gone. And so it is with the people that we loved. Their memories keep shining ever brightly, though their time with us is done. But the star that lights the darkest night, these are the lights that guide us as we live our days. These are the ways that we remember. You have a piece of paper, I hope. And you can share. Mizmor LeDavid is a beloved passage in our prayer book, in our service. And we continue with just a little bit of that teaching and then going into the English. Adonai ro'i lo echzar, bin ot desha yarbitzeni. Excuse me. Yarbitzeni. Al mei menuchot yanachaleni. Nafshi sovev. Yancheni b'magle tzedek laman shemo. Gam ki elech b'gai tzalmavet. Lo ira ra ki ata imadi. Together. Adonai is my shepherd, I shall not want. God makes me lie down in green pastures, leads me beside the still waters, and restores my soul. You lead me in right paths for the sake of your name. Even when I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You have set a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You have anointed my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of God forever. Turn my eyes to the mountains, from where will my help come? My help comes from Adonai, maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way. Your guardian will not slumber. See, the guardian of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. Adonai is your guardian. Adonai is your protection at your right hand. By day the sun will not strike you, nor the moon by night. God will guard you. God will guard your life. God will guard your going and your coming, now and forever. Adonai, what are we that you have regard for us? What are we that you are mindful of us? We are like a breath. Our days are like a passing shadow. We come and go like grass, which in the morning shoots up renewed, and in the evening fades. You cause us to return, saying, return, O mortal creatures. Would that we were wise, that we understood where we are going. For when we die, we carry nothing away. Our glory does not accompany us. But mark the wholehearted, and behold the upright. They shall have peace. God, you redeem the souls of your servants, and none who trust in you shall be desolate. It is for each of you so incredibly difficult to be here, so incredibly sad, so hurt, so wanting to go back days and months before. One of the ways over time that we hope will help you as you at some point begin to heal, we hope and we pray for each one of you to start just a little bit of healing, just a little bit of hope, just a little bit of light. It is certainly a difficult day, and we all know that, and for all of us, look at all of these people behind you, for all of them to be there for you, to help you, and to guide you. We are going to continue now with some eulogies, and I'm going to ask those of you who are speaking to come up at this point. We have Jay, you want to sit down? Stay here, it's fine.
My family and I want to thank you all for joining us today to say farewell to my mom, Dolores. I want to thank Rabbi Lynn for all of her counsel during this very trying time. I want to tell you a little bit about my mom. She was born in Minnesota to immigrant parents, but soon moved to St. Louis at an early age where her no BS attitude developed. She was a true show-me-state lady. She took nothing at face value. You had to prove it to her before she accepted it. Like most people of her era, she began working at an early age, and she never stopped. She had a work ethic and integrity like few others I've known. She met my dad in the late 50s, they married in the 60s, and she took on 3 young children. My mom and dad worked as a team. She not only worked outside of the home, but she raised my brothers and sister as her own. She could be a taskmaster, and for some, it may have seemed unbearable, but she meant well and tried her very best. I'm sure it was not easy jumping into a situation where she had 0 training and little guidance. After settling in Springfield, my dad started with ZEP, and I came shortly thereafter. Both my parents worked, and I cannot remember a time where either one of them banged out sick. I think I learned from them what going to work every day meant. They didn't sleep in, and they never hit snooze. My dad worked very hard and was out of town for a good deal of my life, but he was making a life for all of us. My mom was always there and taught me a great deal. She introduced me to baseball, for which I'm forever grateful. She instilled in me the importance of an education and taught me to laugh. My mom also kept me grounded and reminded me who I was and where I came from. Her humor tended to be a little more bawdy than mine. My mom loved a good joke, the dirtier the better. She had an infamous joke book containing hundreds and hundreds of jokes that was held together by many, many rubber bands. Some of these jokes were not for the faint of heart, as I'm sure most of you know. My mom could sit around telling jokes, shaking with laughter, while tears streamed down her face. My mom attended all of my baseball games, not missing one unless she and my dad were both out of town. She attended parent-teacher conference regularly and knew exactly where I stood in each class. Both my parents loved when my friends came over. They weren't Mr. and Mrs. Rothschild. They were Harvey and Dolores. First thing she did when my buddies came over is offer to feed them. You never left my house hungry. They hosted parties and January 1 football games for years and years. Like all good Jewish moms, she wanted me to become a doctor, a lawyer, or a dentist. It took a while, but she finally warmed up to my law enforcement ambitions. and I think she was mostly concerned for my safety, and then she finally accepted it. But I've never seen two people more happy as when I was hired by the Secret Service. They told me it's a better class of criminal. They attended my graduation from the Secret Service Academy and could not have been prouder on the day I was sworn in as a special agent. My mom and dad had many friends, and there's some crazy stories out there. They spent many years on Lake Springfield with that pontoon boat. They hosted epic Passover Seders and hosted couples club dinners that would go on into the wee hours of the morning. The constants in my life were my mom, and her life were my mom, my dad, family, and friends. My mother loved her family, to include her late sister, Lillian. She doted on her parents who lived in St. Louis for many years until they both passed away. The one thing my mother loved more than anything, though, was being a grandmother and a great-grandmother. She had a special bond with my daughter, Megan. She was Nanny, plain and simple. She loved Megan and would sneak her over to Sonic for dinner when Renee and I needed a babysitter. Megan would be usurped years later by her own children, Lily and Freya. She couldn't get enough of Lily and Freya. She'd light up when she saw them on FaceTime, spoke with them on the phone, but she was most happy when she saw them in person. She traveled to Savannah several times before travel became too much. My mom had a special relationship with my wife, Renee. She was Nanny, and Renee was Nene. It was only Renee and Dolores when it turned serious. She treated Renee as a daughter, and Renee looked at her as a second mother. Renee was there to take care of my mom during several hospitalizations, and she also had to take care of my dad. It wasn't easy because I couldn't be there all the time because of work. She shouldered quite a burden, and for that I owe a debt of gratitude to Renee that I cannot simply repay. My mom wasn't perfect. She had her faults like any human being, but she tried her best in everything that she did, from being a wife, a mother, a grandmother, a sister, and a friend. You knew where you stood with her, and you either loved her or you didn't. But if you were friends with her, you were friends for life. She and my father gave the shirts off their back to their friends, the temple, and most importantly, their family, many, many times over. My mom was a lifelong member of Hadassah and Sisterhood. She had been a member of ORT, and she and my dad have been members of Temple Bris Sholom for over 50 years. She and my father worked on countless community dinners, chili suppers, and interfaith breakfasts. There is more to my mom than these few paragraphs, and like many of us, we can talk about our loved ones for hours. But today I say my final farewell to my mom and my friend. She fought a good fight. She will always rest in peace, and she went out on her terms. It was an absolute pleasure and privilege to call her my mom. I want to thank you all for your support, your kind words, love, and friendship during this difficult time. I also want to give a special thank you to her primary care physician, Dr. Rule. He treated her for over 20 years. And I also want to say thank you to the Memorial Medical Center. Dr. Ranja and his team were absolutely amazing in their care for her. Thank you.
I just want to thank all of you for being here today to pay your respects to my mother, Dolores. My mom came into my life over 50 years ago after my dad was divorced. She took on 3 of us, myself, my 2 brothers, Jordan and Gregory, and she did it without a playbook. Learned along the way that so eventually became a great mom. Over the years, she was there for me through thick and thin. I really knew that I could count on her. I knew every Sunday that I would receive a phone call from my parents to check on me no matter what. They always knew what to say and to do for me and to make my life a little easier. When I started my family of my own and I had no idea what I was doing, my mom did drop everything and come to Ohio to help me. As things changed in my life, my mom advised me on what to do, and she was a constant in my life. As I got older, I continued to learn from her throughout the years. I cannot begin to tell you how much my mom has meant to me and how much I loved her. She continued to care all the way to the end, and I am so thankful that I was able to spend time with her in her final hours and I was able to let her know one final time I loved her very much. Please keep her in your thoughts and remember her for everything and everything good that she was. Okay.
This is from Renee. When people think of my mother-in-law, a lot of thoughts come to mind, which are usually not flattering. I had known my mother-in-law, Dolores, for 32 years, and she was the best. As I started to outline the eulogy the evening of Nanny's passing, it was hard to find the right beginning. After all, how do you summarize a life that spanned almost 9 decades? How do I wrap up 32 years in 3 minutes? I was on my laptop and Googled mother-in-law. What I found were links to mother-in-law jokes, an ad for a therapist, and I couldn't help but laugh. Mother-in-laws have been the fodder of jokes in TV shows, but I was never able to relate to this since I had the best mother-in-law in the world. She was a mom to me. I remember the very first time I met my future mother-in-law. It was dinner time. Brent and I walked in the front door, and Dolores immediately offered me something to eat. She quickly pulled out a steak, and you all know what I mean. Dolores had a huge heart, a caring spirit, and a deep devotion to her husband, her son, Brent, Ava, granddaughters Megan, and the greatest great-granddaughters in the world, Lilith and Freya. Last night, I couldn't sleep, and I watched a documentary on Ronald Reagan. They showed a clip from his daughter Patty's eulogy to her dad, and she had a quote which was very powerful, which I thought was so appropriate for today. Neither death nor disease can conquer love, and that is so true in our case. So what will I remember the most? The Shabbat dinners, or Passover feasts, or simple backyard summers with Poppy grilling and Mom throwing barbecue sauce together out of every open container in the fridge. The endless matzo balls, the gefilte fish, and let's not forget the endless cakes, cheesecakes, gooey butter cakes. She made these for all the events. Perhaps will be the book of jokes she had written down over the years and carried with her just in case she forgot a joke. The book that was passed down, now it's in Megan's hands. She set a gold standard, real-life example of the word devotion. Watching her move through the world, I learned many important things that go into the secret sauce of being a wife, a mother, and a grandmother, not just in placid times, but when the going gets choppy. When I was blessed with my first granddaughter, I swore to Brent I wanted the kind of love and devotion with them that Dolores shared with Megan. I try every day to be the best grandmother because Dolores set a very high bar. I love you, Nanny.
Harvey, Ava and Jordan, Brent, Renee, Megan. Even as I extend to you my warmest condolences, I also thank you and Rabbi Goldstein for inviting me to share a few memories this morning. For those of you who do not know me, I am Rabbi Michael Datz, recently retired from this pulpit. I arrived in Springfield in March of 1992. A month later, in April of that year, my wife and I found ourselves sitting at a Seder hosted annually by Harvey and Dolores in their home. We were two newcomers sitting among 30 or 40 old-timers when we first saw Dolores in action. Hosting 30 or 40 people for dinner and preparing the truckloads of food to keep everyone happy seemed like a fairly routine event for the Rothschilds, and they carried it off without a hitch. For them, it was just one more instance of their generous hospitality. That Seder, in a very real sense, was a kind of barometer of Jewish life in Springfield at that time, something in which Harvey and Dolores were key players. If the community was warm and welcoming, Harvey and Dolores were a reflection of that. No one was better at making something difficult look easy than Dolores. And in Dolores' universe, economy of scale took on a whole new meaning. In the ensuing years, again a reflection of Jewish life in Springfield, the Seders grew smaller as children grew up and moved away, as retirees moved to warmer climes, as the elderly moved closer to their adult children, and as the aged passed away. But the dynamism remained the same. When we resurrected the community Seder several years before the pandemic, Dolores was still bringing us charosas by the barrel. The advancing years brought other changes and challenges too. But ongoing issues of health never seemed to slow her down. The sadnesses, such as the loss of Greg and Lillian, never erased her smile or sense of humor. And when Renee and Megan came into her life, her arms were just as warm and loving as they were when Ava and Jordan came into her life so many years before. I last saw Dolores Saturday morning. Renee texted me that Dolores had herself, typical of her courage and realism, made the decision to stop treatment and be moved into hospice and comfort care while awaiting Ava's arrival. I wanted to see her one last time while she was still conscious, and so dropped what I was doing and headed up to Memorial. After a few jokes about the end of Passover and the effects of matzah on one's regularity, because one could always make jokes about that with Dolores, I said some words to this effect. I want to thank you for being a part of my life these past 30 years, for babysitting my kids when they were small, for the truckloads of food you have fed us all over the years, whether it was a community Seder, a Sisterhood brisket dinner, or a Dorset deli, and for your continuing support, and most of all, for your abiding sense of humor during the rough patches and dark times. I thought I was speaking for myself until I went on the Temple's Facebook page and realized how my words echo the sentiments of so many others. Here are a few of those. This woman was an institution. Recently, Denise Arjmont and I were talking. She spoke of how in 1967 she could remember her and all of the kids surrounding Dolores after Shabbat. She was like a sun being orbited by planets that were the children of TBS. Those of us that have grown up in TBS are so much better for knowing her and her love. What a truly special woman. So many fond memories of her sitting in the back row with us all those years. She was a special person, so kind, caring, and funny. I am so sad and sorry to hear about Dolores. She was one special kind of lady who always had a smile on her face, even when she wasn't feeling well. I send my sincere condolences. Such an awesome, loving, and thoughtful person. I'll never forget how kind she was. She could cheer up a room with just a few words. What a delightful lady. A class act, funny, caring, and a woman who was always there for you. We enjoyed Seder together for 40 plus years. My friends, time frays the fabric of our lives, but while Dolores would certainly appreciate our kind words, she's probably thinking, all of this for me? Dolores would have looked at the fraying fabric and said, we should figure out some way to fix it. That's who Dolores was. A warm, loving Balabusta. Some things, however, are not so easily fixed, and some people can never be replaced. So here's what I think Dolores would say if she were here. Okay, so cry a little, but then go get something to eat. Zikrona livracha. May the memory of Dolores Rothschild always be an abiding blessing, as we say, Ken Yehi Ratzon. May it be God's will. Amen.
In his sorrow, Job cried out, Adonai natan v'Adonai lakach, yehi shem Adonai mevorach. God has given, and now God has taken away. An ancient people, we are well acquainted with grief and with the valley of shadows. Death and sorrow are not strangers to us, but the centuries have taught us that a good name endures beyond the grave, and that there is strength for all of us in faith. With Job we say, Adonai natan, God, you have given. You gave us a loved one who can never be forgotten. For all that was good and enduring in her life, we offer you the deepest thanks of our heart. Adonai lakach, God, you have taken away. We pray for the strength to turn our broken hearts into an altar of trust, before which we acknowledge your sovereignty and love and say, Yehi Shem Adonai Mevorach, praised be the name of God, now and forever. Our rabbis wondered. They asked us why it is that we choose to celebrate the maiden voyage of a ship. We don't know anything about the ship at that point. We don't know what kind of voyages it will make, and we don't know how it'll hold up on the high seas, and we don't know if it's going to run into storms or calm weather. We don't know if it will weather those storms. We don't even know if it'll survive the first ocean crossing. So why, the rabbis asked, do we celebrate? Instead, why do we not mark with respect the retiring ship, the ship that has made successful trips? It has survived the storms and squalls of the seas. It has sailed through calm and through winds. We don't know what the course of a new life will be, what the nature of its deeds will be, but as that soul returns to port, we have seen the journeys that it made, the difficulties that it survived, and the incredible contributions that it has made to so many, to the dignity and the joy with which it has sailed. It has fulfilled its mission in life. So too the rabbis said about human life. We need to observe with great respect the lives of those good individuals who are departing. Their life, which has been lived so well, has been contributed and has contributed so much, has become a model for each of us. Dolores, as you all well know, was a devoted, loving, funny woman who knew what was most important in life, and that was each one of you, each and every one of you, her family. Each of you were the most important part of her. You were always helping quietly without showing off. Dolores did so much for you. She cooked for you and sewed for you and watched over you and checked homework with you and guided you and took care of you and did anything and everything she could for you. And most importantly, she loved you all so very much. Harvey, you told me that the two of you were very, very lucky. You said it was beshert. You said it was meant to be, and that truly it was. The two of you were meant for each other. And so, Harvey, the story of your meeting was wonderful to hear. You were in St. Louis at the Jewish Y, at the JCC, and you lived in Centralia at that point, but you drove into St. Louis. And you were hoping to meet or maybe even find a date at the St. Louis JCC. That day, Dolores was driving the car on a very cold and windy day, and her hair went straight up in the air because of the wind. Harvey, you told me you were absolutely smitten. Wow, you said. I wonder who she is. And that was the first time he met Dolores. Harvey, you told me that she was a very pretty blonde lady who looked like a movie star. And so you said, I gotta go say hello. They sat and they chatted over coffee. In a half an hour or so, you said you would like to see her again. Would she meet with you next week? Would it be possible? Next week, though, she was busy. And after that, she had another date. So, not giving up, Harvey decided to try for the third time. This time they went to Chase Park Plaza, and you chatted together and had drinks and enjoyed yourself, and you told her, "I would like to see you again." And this time she actually said yes. You told me that you met on several more occasions, and then with the 3 children, with the 2 boys and the daughter. I hate to tell you they've grown a little bit more since then. Finally, though, they got married in St. Louis on May 12th. And Harvey, you told me that when you and Dolores met, you told me that you had a whole family with you. For several years, you explained, Dolores brought you all together and turned you not into a broken family. But as you told me, Megan, you said, all I want to do is be a family, not just be part of a family. Ava, you explained to me that when you came into your family, the family was broken, and you said she made us truly a family. We were 3 little children with only a father, and she made us to be that family. She picked up the pieces. It was the beginning of us, of all of us, as a real family. Megan, as we talked, you told me about how your mom was a great lady, a wonderful woman, somebody incredibly special. It was Dolores who answered the call. She got the children ready for school. She went to work, and after school came home and then cooked and cleaned. She took over all the reins of a true mother. It can't be understated how much she loved you all and how much she did for each and every one of you. Dolores had everything on her shoulders. Renee, you told me that she made mistakes, but she always managed to finish us and to get everyone dressed and off to school. It was like they changed overnight. They came home from school and took off as a family. Ava, you told me that your 3 little kids, that you were the 3 little kids, and it was this huge undertaking, very unique, we were told, for the father, because that didn't happen in those days. And Harvey, you were the one who took care, who did everything you could. You told me, Megan, that you explained it was kind of like being in the Brady Bunch. You said that you were very kind and very loving, and you also were very happily ensconced with the Shea family fully and completely and accepted by all the children. Megan and Dolores and family, they were your mother. She was the best parent figure there could be. You got to go and enjoy being at home. You heard how your mom was strict, but Megan, you never had a problem with that. You got to go enjoy the fun stuff. You said that you would go and you would get picked up at Hebrew school, and then you would be taken to Shop and Save. And Shop and Save was to get fried chicken livers and then back into the car to get Baskin and Robbins. You can guess who got which one. Dolores ate the fried chicken livers and Megan ate the Baskin and Robbins. Well, and don't forget the crack of dawn eating the Eggo waffles. The ones that melted butter in your mouth with all that whipped cream too. Dolores would creep upstairs so she could hear them quietly putting food away so that Megan and Dolores could enjoy it all. Brent, as a teenager, you remember those sandwich bags filled with quarters? Whatever happened to those quarters? It seems like they might have gone to the tooth fairy. Harvey, you told me how Dolores always wanted to go somewhere to get something special for others, how important that was. All those jokes and laughter, she was always on the stage. She was never losing sight of the joy of life. She laughed a little, she enjoyed, and she laughed more. She also told me that the way that she lived was the way that she raised the kids, to feel, to care. Oh, and then there was the Disney store, apparently in Orlando. Brent, you were 15 or so, and Megan, you were 7 or 8, and you had to have every new stuffed animal in the store, and the new lithographs. And of course, all of the Nanny bought every Disney toy. Renee, you told me there were hundreds of them. Dolores would buy for Megan, and then of course she would go and buy more for herself. Ava, you remembered the clip-on earrings for Purim. And you talked about these giant, gaudy, really sparkly jewelry pieces. Dolores never asked for them back, and once you found out they weren't real, I guess some of the fun was a little bit gone. You all remembered the corned beef dinners and the nibble and nosh, and you all told me about Hadassah that killed it. That was great, and they even delivered too sometimes. Dolores remained close with her sister, Aunt Lillian. They had a good relationship. Grandpa Shea cleaned in the store, and on Sundays, Lillian took over the cooking, and Dolores worked in the business section. She picked it up quickly, and she answered, "If you can read, you can cook." Dolores enjoyed going to the store and helping clean up. Rose, Lillian, and Dolores even stayed close all those years, keeping in touch. Harvey, you told me about those earlier years more, about how Dolores was involved in sisterhood and in Hadassah. On the weekends, she did all kinds of cooking and baking and worked really, really, really hard. Harvey, you saw at one point Dolores sitting and crying because it was so much work. And you told her, "I never expected to be that hard, but everyone pitched in, and it was a great success." And then there were the Seders. You've heard about those. Harvey, your Seders were in your home. You had 36 years of Seders, you told me, and you had even 44 guests present as well. The Seders remained for decades. Dolores and Harvey became Seder guests and got to rest and enjoy themselves surrounded by family. Renee, you told me that she never thought of herself first or of her well-being. If Dolores couldn't, she still managed to do it. Megan, you told me that it was explained and it was regardless that she would make it. And it was just going to happen. "This is what I'm doing," she said, "and I will make it. That's it." Renee, you told me that Dolores could never say no, and Brent, you said she would tell you, "I have to do this." Renee, you told me how you had just given birth to Megan. Dolores had come over and said, "You were mine, and you're my baby." She loved to hold every baby, to cuddle them and hold them and play with them. Dolores would say, "Nanny is protecting him. Leave my baby alone." Renee, you knew that Dolores didn't come to visit you. You told me that. But just to be with the baby. Megan, you said she had a wonderful love of life. And Renee, you said that, you loved to say, "I love you more." She would drop anything and everything and anywhere for the baby. Ava, you loved it when your family came to visit and you would say, "Stay with us, come and see us." You had a wonderful childhood with them, and you talked a lot on the phone. You talked about calling and checking in on each other, checking in on Harvey when he was around, and checking in, of course, with Dolores. And you told me that Dolores was a really wonderful, loving mother and such a good mother to you. Harvey, you explained to me that we were blessed. It's not about how it started, you told me, but how it continued and how it finished. A good neshama, you said, a good heart, a good ride. Your lives continued in their own directions after that. On happy occasions, on graduations and marriages and births of grandchildren and more and more. But now, in his sorrow, we know that Job cried out and said that God has given and God has taken away. And so with Job, we say that God, you have given us a wonderful, lovely, caring family who will never be forgotten. A woman who brought out the very best in each one of you. For all that was good and enduring, all of us thank you from our hearts. And we know now that it was time, and she knew it as well. And so we pray for the strength to turn our broken hearts towards you, God, and acknowledge your sovereignty and love, and say, "Praised is God's name, now and forever." Who could be more than Dolores? Eddie Cantor once wrote, "Love, life, Switch a single letter, and it's just the same. The love, the caring, the compassion, the joy, and the fun. Harvey, as you put it, it was a good life. O God, full of compassion, please send your comfort to those who grieve. Help them to dispel the sadness that accompanies the pain of loss, and to find joy in the precious memories of Dolores. May your love inspire them to focus on the love they have for Dolores, and that love for her that you all had for them. Help them to face the future with courage, to treasure Dolores's wonderful legacy. Sustain us in that faith, O God, even in this troubling time, as you have sustained our people in times of trouble and sorrow throughout the generations. Blessed are you, God, who provides comfort to the brokenhearted. We are going to, at this point, ask you to stand up, and we are going to continue with Almale Rachamim. In Hebrew and then in English. El Malay Rachamim, Shotein Bamrami, Aminatzem Nukhan Konata Kanfei Hashmina, Im Kiroshim Tohorim Kuzahor Harakia, Naskirim Et Nishmata, Shahal Olama, Val Harachamim Naskirei Abaseter Nafal Olami, Yisur Hayim Et Nishmata, Adonai Hu Nachalata, Tanuach B'Shalom Amishkava V'Nomar. Amen. God of abundant mercy, God Most High, may the soul of our loved one who has gone into eternity find the gift of perfect peace in your embrace, whose light shines like the radiance of the heavens. Compassionate God, hold her close to you forever, wrapped in the shadow of your wings and brought by you with love into eternity, so that her soul may be bound up in the bond of life eternal. May she find a home with you, God, and may she rest in peace always. And together we say, Amen. May Dolores' memory be for us a blessing, and may we never let the light of her love grow dim in our hearts. May we remember all her worthy and righteous deeds, that her memory be forever bound up in the bond of life. God is our source and our destination, our beginning and our end. May Dolores' death awaken us to this truth, that the bond of love we shared and share not be severed in sorrow. May she rest in peace, and together let us all say, Amen. Have a seat momentarily. We will be going from the cemetery. We're going to the cemetery from here right afterwards. And then there will be a luncheon, and shortly after that there will be a Shiva Minyan. For those also who would like to come to the Shiva Minyan at 6 o'clock tomorrow evening, we invite you to be there. And we will participate in the Shiva Minyan at 6 o'clock, and the regular service will start at 6:30. I would like to ask the pallbearers and the family to stand up and bring the pallbearers forward.